Well, two more big championship games this midweek as we approach the end of the 23-24 season, and you could argue that these two games have lost a little importance after what we saw in Saturday's games. But nonetheless, there are still chances for teams in both of these games to have important roles in both the race for promotion and the playoffs. We've got two battles in the top end of the table, and we're going to run through, preview, and predict the score for both of them. And as always, I'll encourage you to do the same in the comments below. If you beat or match my overall score this midweek, you'll get a shout out in the recap on Thursday evening as we look ahead to the penultimate weekend of the championship season. We'll also do our recap there for the weekend fixtures last week and see who beat or matched my score there too. So thank you very much for getting involved as always. We've got Premier League previews and National League playoff previews coming later this week. But for now, the attention turns to the penultimate midweek in the championship. And we start our two midweek games with Leicester City versus Southampton. Leicester back on top after, I think you have to call it a nervy 2-1 win against West Brom. In the first half, they were leading 1-0, but they were probably the second best side. Hamza Chowdhury, probably the unsung hero of the day, made a brilliant goal line clearance. And West Brom was certainly a threat even without a striker. Leicester created probably 3 or 4 of the best chances of the match, but West Brom had a lot more shots than we'd normally see from them, had a lot more of the ball than we probably expected in the game, and gave Leicester some real defensive problems. You saw the changes that Maresca made, brought in a bit more experience for those crucial moments, and to an extent it worked out. Obviously having that extra centre half in as such with Connor Cody coming in and Face moving over did work out as well. And although Jamie Vardy missed a penalty, he did make amends in the second half with a goal that in the end proved to be very crucial as Jed Wallace got one back a bit later. So an important spell for Leicester because they've not had a great time away from home recently. But at home, they've managed to keep the run going despite the fact they've not been at their best. We saw against Birmingham a narrow victory. The Norwich game was a little more comfortable. But then again against West Brom there, back to their favourite score of 2-1. And back to the summit of the table. Despite losing 10 games this year, they managed to pick up wins. They don't draw many. And that at the moment might be the difference between them and the 3 below. For Southampton, it was very much the opposite emotion because I sort of said, I was chatting with my mate, a Southampton fan before this, it's about can you break Cardiff down early like you did against Preston, because they were phenomenal in that midweek performance against Preston, tore them apart. Then against Cardiff, you thought, great, they've started with the goal. It's going to make the promotion race exciting. They were comfortable. They probably should have been further ahead. Ethan Horvath, the former Luton loan player, had a very good first half, it must be said. And Southampton did what they do. They dominated the ball. They created plenty of chances and had enough to probably make it 2 or 3 by the break. But unlike the Preston game, they didn't. And in the second half, it then got a bit nervy and a little bit sloppy at times. And unfortunately for them, Cardiff managed to peg them back. And then the hammer blow in the 96th minute. Great moment for the Cardiff teenager, which we'll cover in their predictions on Thursday. But massive damage for Southampton in their race for automatic promotion and the title. They're now 7 points behind Leicester with 3 to go. They have to win this game just to be able to catch Leicester in the final 2 matches. And of course, while they were hoping with Ipswich not playing due to having Coventry who are in FA Cup action and Leeds not playing till Monday night, they were hoping to put real pressure on. If they won that game, they'd have been level on points with Leeds. They'd have had that game in midweek. And it all would have started to look very exciting for them. As it is now, this becomes a must-win game, which I think does change the dynamic of how it's going to go. And possibly the score prediction of what I'm going to go for. Because earlier in the season, Leicester were very much the side that could occasionally slip up and get frustrated at home. But were just brilliant away from home. Now, you wouldn't back them to win an away game to save your life. But at home, you feel like they're just going to find a way to get over the line. But the difference with this one is Leicester probably don't have to win now. And that's something that's changed the dynamic as well. Southampton have got to. You could have argued if Southampton had won at the weekend and then come here and got a point, that maybe they've got a chance going into the next game and then Leeds on the final day. Here now you feel they've got to win because otherwise they're pretty much out of the mix with 2 games to go. So they're going to have to be aggressive and that's no problem for them. While the Blackburn away game 5 ago, scoring has not been a problem. But defensively, they do give up moments. We saw from 2-0 up against Watford. We saw at the end against Cardiff. There are sloppy moments in them, and they're never quite as comfortable on a lead as some of the other sides at the top. Leeds and Leicester have had their troubles recently in scoring goals, in getting ahead and getting the first goal in a game. But Southampton aren't as comfortable in the lead, which is something that is becoming a bit of an issue towards the end of this season. As a result of all of that, I've changed my prediction quite drastically from what I was going to go for before this weekend's action. I thought at that point I might go for a 1-0 either way, someone to just nick a game. But I actually think we're going to get a far more entertaining match now because Southampton will have to come out. Leicester are a threat on the counter attack. They've got pace in abundance. They've got players with real quality and cutting edge who can find that through ball in the midfield. And Southampton, we know, are going to keep possession and cause real trouble for Leicester with their movement and causing defensive issues. So both sides are going to have their weakness exploited in this game. And I think it's going to lead to a thriller. Southampton have to win, and for the sake as a neutral of a title race or a promotion race that goes to the wire, I think a lot of people would like to see it, so it goes to the final day and that Leeds Southampton game. But on this occasion, I just can't back Leicester to lose at home. They don't often do it. I'm going to go for them to manage to nick something in the end. I think this is going to be a thriller. I think there's going to be mistakes, and I think there's going to be bits of quality too. And I'm going to go for an exciting 2-2 draw for the Tuesday night game. I think we're all looking forward to watching it, and hopefully it will live up to the billing as a neutral. On Wednesday night, though, we turn our attention to the outside battle for the playoffs because it is Coventry City versus Hull City, and with Norwich dropping points at the weekend and West Brom, of course, losing as well, both of these sides, if they win this game in hand, have still got a chance of catching 5th or 6th. Hull are 6 points behind with 3 games to go. Coventry 9 points behind with 4 games to go. But Coventry have got the far superior goal difference. So if either of these sides don't win, a draw is a disaster for both, which again should create a quite entertaining game. Whoever loses it is officially out, basically, because they'll be relying on no points from 5th or 6th and goal difference as a problem. And whoever wins this game to slip up multiple times too. Coventry, of course, are in FA Cup action on Sunday, and I should give a quick caveat to say I'm recording this before the game because I want to get comfortable on the sofa and watch this one this afternoon because it's going to be an absolute cracker. Having played Coventry at Wembley last season in the playoff final, we wish them great luck on a championship point of view as well. But looking ahead to Wednesday night, is that going to have a hangover? Well, we sort of saw the build-up have a hangover last week, didn't we? Because Coventry were terrible at Birmingham. It was a really poor performance by their standards. Had loads of the ball, and yes, it was tactically very good from Gary Rowett, but it wasn't a Coventry performance that we're used to seeing. They had the frustration at Southampton before. The Cardiff game a few weeks ago was a real kick in the backside, wasn't it? But the Leeds performance at home was good, and they have generally been good at home this season, particularly in the second half of the year. But they're going to Wembley on Sunday. They're playing United in an FA Cup semi-final, which I actually think might end up looking stupid by the time this comes out. I think they've got a good chance in. But I do think it's going to hinder them on Wednesday. Hull, of course, were 1 penalty kick away from being 2 points higher and right in the playoff mix going into this midweek. The Osan Tufan penalty not scored, and that makes the big difference because Daniel Bachmann, the hero for Watford, and possibly the hero for Norwich and West Brom as well. We've talked all season about the improvement in Hull's team where they've been much more solid defensively at key times. They've been much more composed, and obviously in January they added those individual bits of quality, but it looks like it might just be one season too soon for them now. I say that though, they win it. They've got a great opportunity in the last 2 games. They did have a lot of the ball again. They did create a number of decent openings, and we know people like Philogene are a huge threat on the break, and he obviously went and won the penalty as well. Carvalho's got quality. Watford were forced to sort of half chances, long range shots and that. But equally for Hull, they have lacked that cutting edge at times this year. They've just not been able to score quite as regularly. And we look at the top end of the table. I mean, all of the top 6 and Coventry below have scored more than them this season. And I think that's maybe the real difference between them and the rest of the top 8 that next season might have to be addressed. If they can find that player like a Josh Sargent who can turn up and just score 20 goals like so many of the top 4 have got, then I think they might be in for a real special season. But for now, how do you predict this game? Both sides know it's must win, and that should create goals, which Hull don't normally have. But it is last chance saloon. It is the opportunity to put pressure on other teams before the weekend. I just wonder how much Coventry have left in the legs after 3 days on from Wembley, Obviously, we don't know at the time of recording. It could yet go to extra time penalties and all of that. But even if it's 90 minutes, it's still going to have a big effect. I mean, Hull do concede goals. Coventry, they're both letting over 50. They're not the best defences in the world. I just think, again, these two games design themselves to be thrillers because both teams have got to win in this match. Southampton have got to try and beat Leicester. I mean, on the flip side, Leicester could go very close to winning the title. I mean, it just makes for a good midweek. In this game, I'm going to go for Hull City to nick it purely on legs because Coventry, we've seen a couple of times this season. We saw the Cardiff game where they were 1-0 up. Yes, 2 free-cone goals, but then fell behind. I don't think they're going to be able to have that late rally that they'll perhaps have in other matches. So I'm going to go for Coventry to perhaps struggle after Sunday evening. Hopefully they'll be in an FA Cup final to soften the blow though. I'm going to go, I think, for Hull City to nick it, but both teams to have a go. Hull by 2-1 and to stay in the playoff race for the championship. Let's have a quick recap of what I've gone for this midweek then. 3 of the 4 sides need a win and the other one would very much like one. I've gone for Leicester and Southampton to draw 2-2 in a battle at the top, effectively all but ending Southampton's chances at the top 2. And Coventry v Hull, the battle for the playoff chance. Hull City, for me, are going to win it purely because of Coventry's exertions at Wembley. And Hull, look, they probably should have nicked the Watford game. They didn't. And I think they'll bounce back here to get back within 3 of Norwich and West Brom and maybe give themselves a chance going into the final 2 match days. Those are just my predictions for this midweek's action though. Let me know yours in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree? Give me your score predictions. And if you beat or match my overall score, you'll get a shout out on Thursday in a recap as we look ahead to all of the weekend's full fixture list in the championship. We'll also have a look back at last weekend's scores. So if you want to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. There's loads more to come next week as well. A full Premier League preview on Wednesday, looking ahead to Wolves v Luton as well. On Friday, we've got our National League semi-final playoff predictions. The eliminators are taking place on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll of course review those as well. We've got the final weekend of the League One season. We'll have a shorts video outlining our predictions for that too. Some big games at the top there. And there's plenty more to come over the next few weeks with the EFL playoffs beginning just as the championship season comes to a close. But a massive thank you for getting involved as always. Thank you so much for watching. You can find all the playlists and key other videos up in the eye above. And I'll see you back here on Thursday afternoon as the championship predictions return for matchday 45.